Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, the teachings of Rabbi Eliezer Melamed Shlita. Here we are, Yom Chamishi, as we're getting closer to Chag Matan Torah, and of course, even closer to Yom Yerushalayim, which will be tomorrow, Mirza Hashem. We ask you to please continue davening for Chaylei Tzva Gana Yisrael, for Shlema Chol Petzua Yisrael. Safety for our brothers and sisters in Israel, like Nishmat and Daniel Shimon Harab Darom V'Shel Hashem Kom Damo. Next and final seif of this chapter is Das Rabbi Yehuda. The widespread custom, we follow the opinion of the Chachamim, that the time for davening mincha extends till the end of the day. And then after the three stars come out, or the appearance of stars, which is a whole other discussion, which we'll see later, but that's the time of Ma'ariv. This is the Machlokas in Gemara Brachos and Daf Chavav. And the other opinion in that Machlokas is Ulam Ladas Rabbi Yehuda is Ma Mincha Hu Ad Plag HaMincha. Rabbi Yehuda says that the time for davening mincha is until what's known as Plag HaMincha. Plag is chatzi. Plag is the word that's used in the Gemara to mean half. Kolomar mechalkim is man mincha katana l'shnayim. So we take the time of mincha katana and we cut that into two parts. Ukvar lamada, we learned that earlier in Halacha Gimel, shezman mincha katana misha teisha v'chaitzi ad sof shtei misrei. So we learned that mincha katana, and again, it's the shorter part of the mincha zman as opposed to mincha gadol, which we saw earlier. So if we take halachic hours, it's from 9.5 hours until 12 hours. Kolomar shatayim v'chaitzi, so it's 2.5 hours. V'imkein plag hu sha'avareva, and therefore half of that would be an hour and a quarter. Again, we're all talking about halachic hour shows, manios. Haplag harishon hu zman hamincha, so the first half of that mincha katana is considered mincha time. V'haplag hasheni kvar zman tefillas arvis l'div Rabbi Yehuda, and the second half is already time for davening Marav, according to Rabbi Yehuda. So that's what colloquially is known as Plag HaMincha. Vizos mishum. So why is this? Why would he have a difference of opinion? So here, practically speaking, he says, according to Rabbi Yehuda, because in practice, the Kohanim were very careful. They would hurry up to try and sprinkle and shecht, etc., the blood from the carbon tamid in the first half of Mincha Katana. So between 9.5 hours halachic day, again, that first half. Therefore, that's the time to daven mincha, if this is what it corresponds to. And in the second half of Mincha Katana, they were already bringing the limbs of the mincha on the mizbeach. And since Mariv was to correspond, the institution of davening Mariv was instituted to correspond with the bringing of the limbs, then that's when the time starts. But according to the Chachamim, since one technically could still sprinkle the blood of the tamid until the end of the day, so too the time for mincha goes to the end of the day. Uzman arvis toem es zman kriya shema shel arvis, and then why do we have marav? Marav is really an expression of the time of saying shema of marav shehu mitzvah kochavim, which is already from nightfall. So we have two opinions in the Gemara, and here's a fascinating insight that the Gemara gives us, and let's take a look right now. So lamaisa ein hachrobim machlokas zu. So what's fascinating is that there is no clear-cut winner in this machlokas. Normally we have a machlokas, we say, well, we follow one, we follow the other. Umaskanas HaTalmud, and the Gemara in Daf Chav Zayin and Brachos concludes, Sherishoy Adam Livchor Linhok Chachamim Ok Rabbi Yehuda. The Gemara says, pick them. You could follow the opinion of the Chachamim, or you could follow the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. V'osifa Rishonim, and the Rishonim add, Ubevnai Shiyochos Minhag Echad, but condition that you should at least grab onto one minhag, Sheminhag Rabbi Yehuda, Azay Yakbet Shel Yisrael Mincha Achar Plag HaMincha. That if you follow the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, which davening before Plag HaMincha, then you should make sure not to daven mincha afterwards. V'minhag Chachamim, and if you follow like most people do, the Chachamim, which is davening until Shkia, until the end of the day, Azay Yakbet Yisrael Arvis Achar Teisa Kochavim, and then you have to make sure to daven Mariv after nightfall. Avar also Hispala Mincha Achar Plag HaMincha Kedas Chachamim Umar Lofnei Teisa Kochavim Kedas Rabbi Yehuda. However, one can't have the best of both worlds. You can't daven mincha and Mariv both in that same zone, which overlap. Again, after Plag HaMincha, before Shkia, you can't do both mincha and Mariv then. He says there in the parentheses, he says, if you look later on, that one should typically or ideally follow one opinion throughout, but if you need to switch, certainly you can. I will just tell you that here in our shul, in the summer months, we daven Plag HaMincha, because where we live, Mincha Mariv would be very, very late, and people probably would be less likely to attend. So if you weigh the values of better attendance and earlier thing, but we just make sure that if you're davening before Plag HaMincha and Marav after, you can't do both Mincha and Marav after Plag HaMincha before Shkia. A different question that arises, one should think about, and it's really a Hilchos Shabbos question, is how do we do so on Shabbos? Often when we take in early Shabbos, we end up davening Mincha and Marav both in the same zone. But that's a question for another time. Interesting note here in note 9 worth looking at, but now you have an understanding of Tefillah Mincha, why we do it the way we do it. But we ask you please continue davening for Chaylei Tzvah Gnei Shel Chol Shalom V'chol B'tzvah Yisrael. Safety, brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael. Nishmat and Daniel Shimon Rav Dram. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you have a great day, and we'll see you here next time.